Hare Krishna. Shyam Sundar, can you hear me? Hare Krishna.
Very well, Prabhuji. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Hare Krishna. Is this good? Is the screen good?
Screen is good, yeah.
Okay, because I'm not able to see myself. Let me see. Yeah, this looks good.
Are you able to see me?
Yeah, this is better, right? Yeah, I'm able to see you. Yep. Hare Krishna. Can you start?
Yes, Prabhuji. So nice to see you after a long time.
Nice to see you too.
Very cool.
What
so
else?
We can start, Prabhuji. आप ऐसा करते हैं.
बोलिए.
Usually we will read the verses, the translation of like maybe 15-20 verses. But what we can do today is that we can just
maybe
we'd like to hear from.
Maybe what we could do is we could do that too. Which means people can have the books open. Yeah, they may have their database open, and we could do that. Okay?
Yeah. Only thing is, I'm actually in the car. So usually, what happens is I share my screen and then everybody can see through.
Oh.
So I'm just thinking. So मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि today we can just start with the summary.
Okay. All right.
We can just summarize the chapter, है ना?
Sure. Will do.
So we can do the Mangalacharan and then up.
So there is no Kirtan, just Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamihiyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. I'm very, 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 very fortunate to be able to be on this call. And I have to thank Shyam Sundar for asking me to be on this call. Okay, the screen. Is it my phone? Yeah. So we'll go directly to the class. We have today we are discussing from the 3rd chapter of Canto 5, Srimad Bhagavatam. And this chapter is entitled Rishabdev's Appearance in the Womb of Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabhi. So last week, you must have been introduced to King Nabhi and Meru Devi. Just to recapitulate, Swayambhuva Manu had 2 sons, Priyavrat and Uttanpad. Uttanpad's a dynasty has been described in the previous cantos. Uttanpad had two sons, Dhruva and Uttama. And Priyavrat was the eldest son of Swambhuva Manu. He had gone off for performing austerities, and he had expressed no interest in ruling the kingdom, which basically meant the entire planet Earth. So he had gone off to the forest. However, many celebrities of the universe, well-known personalities like Lord Brahma and Narada Muni, Swambhuva Manu himself, and the Supreme Lord also, they all came and explained to Priyavrat that it was important for him to come and rule the kingdom, as there was none other qualified to do so. So Priyavrata, the king, the son of Swambhuva Manu, he comes to rule the kingdom. And Priyavrat had many sons. In fact, it is explained that he had, the history of one of his sons, or rather he had one son, and the history of one of his sons, Agnidra, is described in detail. This is one of the features of a Puran. A Puran explains the genealogy, or it explains the lineage of great saintly personalities and saintly kings. Specifically, if there is the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his full incarnation, in his full spiritual form, or as an expansion, or as an avatar, then those dynasties are specially referenced in. And they are specially spoken about in the Purans. Srimad Bhagavatam is also a Puran, and therefore Ishanu Katha or Hari Katha, or the lineage of the the lineages of great saintly kings are also a part of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the 5th canto, we are now tracing the lineage from Priyavrata Muni, Priyavrata Maharaj, King Priyavrat, to his son Agnidra, who himself has 9 sons, as was described in the previous chapter. And one of his sons, King Nabhi, who had been given a particular portion of his father's kingdom to rule over, King Nabhi, being the eldest son of King Agnidra, is married off to, or gets married to, a very qualified lady whose name is Meru Devi. So, according to the historical accounts, the 9 sons of King Agnidra were married off to the 9 daughters of another king, Meru. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the details of King Meru have not been given. However, King Meru and his daughters, their names are mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So King Meru had 9 daughters, and each of his daughters was married off to one of the 9 sons of King Nabhi. Each of the daughters of King Meru was married off to each of the sons of King Agnidra. So when the names of the 9 daughters have been listed, the first name is of Meru Devi. So it seems that she was the eldest, as was Nabhi the eldest amongst the siblings, the children of King Agnidra. So King Nabhi is married to Princess Meru Devi. And the two of them, they lived for many, many years ruling over the kingdom. By the arrangement of providence, they did not have any issues, any children. So King Nabhi, having been trained in traditional practices, Vedic practices, having been trained in Vedic sciences and having knowledge of the Vedas, he wanted to perform a sacrifice for which he underwent severe austerities and penances. Now, typically, in the scriptural references or in the Shastras, we will find that a married couple would perform austerities together if they had a common goal. Typically, generally, that would be the case. So, although it has not been explicitly mentioned here, but both King Nabhi and his wife Meru Devi, they underwent very sincere austerities and penances, and some of these austerities and penances were very severe in nature. The severity was in terms of how we can understand it. It is not that they were trying to torture themselves. But when we say severe, we mean that they practiced they made deliberate attempts at practicing austerities sincerely. So whatever was beyond their comfort zone, they practiced austerities accordingly for many, many years. And then, having performed those austerities and penances, which needed some exclusive time, they had to do it in seclusion. Having done that, having purified themselves through those austerities and penances, when we say purified, it means that when you have a specific goal in mind, then you kind of focus on that. That is what purification is about. For example, the reason I'm trying to explain this is that we should not feel that they had any impurities in their mind. They were already very qualified people. They were very sincere. They were very honest, truthful, abiding by all that the scriptures state. So they were very religious people. They were very pious people. They were very devoted people, the king and the queen. However, when they do certain austerities and penances with a goal in mind, we can relate it to certain experiences that we have in our lives. You know, just as many of us, most of us we use our intelligence to gain knowledge, gain information, knowledge of various fields, like engineering or law, various sciences, etc. Now, whenever there is the time for giving exams or interviews, then we specifically focus on that. And in this way, we purify our lifestyle by reducing our distractions. Doesn't mean that we are impure prior to that. Prior to that also, we have good intelligence. We are, prior to our exams and prior to our interviews, we are well qualified too. Still, whenever the date of the interview, and if it's where you're going to be tested on your knowledge, if that is coming near, then you try to focus more. You put all of your energy into being prepared for that interview, and you let go of many other distractions, right? So typically a king and a queen would have many other duties. However, when they underwent this severe austerities and penances, for many, many years, having been purified by such practices, and I've explained what purified means. Having been purified, in other words, their minds being very focused on the purpose that they had to achieve. And the purpose was that they wanted to have a child, they wanted to have a son. So, because they wanted to have a very qualified soul appear as their son, a person who would be very compassionate, kind-hearted, learned, open to others' views and suggestions, so on and so forth, all those qualities. And we know that in a Vedic tradition, we understand that various souls, they take birth according to their previous qualifications and karma. There would definitely be souls that are highly qualified, in the sense they have all of these qualities, which need a body, which they need to be born. So the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, describe this process, and they are called as the processes of purification. And one of the processes is Garbhadhan, sanskar, wherein one tries to create a situation where a qualified soul would be attracted to come and seek birth. Well, there are many other factors that that determine birth. Here is, since we are speaking about somebody doing austerities to have a qualified son, only that factor we are explaining in a bit, explaining in a little detail. So, so they did that. They performed their sacrifices. Rather, first they finished off their penances, austerities. Then they, being focused now, they requested qualified priests from their kingdom and otherwise too, assuring them of all facilities, assuring them of comfort and resources that would be needed for doing those sacrifices, and also assuring them of remuneration. They invited all of these priests. Now, generally, typically, a priest's remuneration is the facility to do a good sacrifice, where they can rejuvenate their knowledge of performing sacrifices and achieving the result. A priest remuneration is also in terms of having facilities where they can perform their day-to-day activities in the future, and also be able to perform sacrifices in the future. So when we speak about priestly remuneration, we should not just consider that to be very selfish. Scriptures describe how priests they receive remuneration and what kind of remuneration are desired by the priestly class. A priestly class typically would always, if they seek remuneration, it would be for their spiritual upliftment. And our spiritual upliftment is also done through the means of fire sacrifices. And for fire sacrifices, you need ingredients, which basically means you need some income, basically. So anyways, so they assured the priests of, and very, very qualified priests of all their um, uh, needs, whatever they assured them that their needs would be taken care of. And the priests were more than happy to come and perform their sacrifices. And the sacrifices were so powerful, or this sacrifice was so powerful that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared in his self-same form. He appeared in his transcendental form. Typically, the transcendental form of the Lord in the scriptures would be described that he appeared in his four-armed form. There are many other forms also in which the Lord appears. The four-armed form. It would be appropriate to point out here that sometimes people think that only Lord Ram and Lord Krishna, they appeared in a form. And therefore, they may consider them to be ordinary beings, or they may consider to be very, very evolved beings, everything short of being the Supreme Lord. Some of them, they say, because their activities are seemingly human. Hence, they may be special humans, they may be extra qualified humans, but giving the stature of God to them, the Supreme Lord to them, seems a bit of a stretch to these personalities. And typically they get hung over that how can the Supreme Lord have a form? For this class of intellectual people, the scripture reveals that the Lord has time and again shown his transcendental form. Basically, it is not just as that he appeared as Lord Ram and Lord Krishna, or as the Dashavatars. That is it. There are so many references in the scriptures where after having performed a fire sacrifice, the Supreme Lord appears. And the references are so many in number that the so-called disbelievers, or those who find it difficult to accept that the Lord has a form, they would not be able to sort out all these various appearances of the Lord that has been mentioned. There are so many appearances that have been mentioned, and the form has been described in great detail. The form has been described as, those are saying, features. Lord's beautiful face, the face has been decorated by beautiful hair, then his face is ornamented, then the Lord's form, his other features, like the Lord has a body. And every time the scriptures say that this is transcendental, and the scriptures never shy away from calling the Lord a person. They always call the Lord a person. They call the Lord an Atma. They call the Lord a person. They call the Lord a Purusha. They never shy away from doing that. And many times people get confused that if these words have been used for the Lord, then that means that this person is no longer transcendental. The person is now under the purview of the material modes of nature. They don't realize that this is not true. Just because the Lord has been addressed as a person, as a personality, the Lord has been expressed as having a form that can be seen by ordinary eyes. Ordinary eyes too. You see, the priests, they could see the form of the Lord. King Nabhi could see the form of the Lord. Queen Meru Devi could see the form of the Lord. And all the other people who were there in the sacrificial arena, they could see the form of the Lord too. So the form can be seen. The Lord's form has features. The Lord is addressed as Purusha. Always, most of the times, directly, explicitly, and very occasionally, implicitly. Whenever these descriptive words are used to address the Lord, they are used in conjunction with the word supreme. So yes, all of us are persons. The Lord is the supreme person. All of us are living beings, including the Lord. However, the Lord is the supreme living being. And an example could be helpful to relate to this. All of us are Atmas, including the Lord. The Lord is also an Atma. However, the Lord is the supreme Atma. He's called as a Paramatma. He's a supreme Purusha. So he's called as Purushottama or Vishesha, Purusha Vishesha. In today's verses, this word would be used for the Lord, Purusha Vishesha. Special person, the supreme person. So there is absolutely no issues with calling the Lord a person or calling the Lord a Purusha. Just as to try and give a relevant example from our experiences. Let us say that most of us as living beings, especially as the human race, we need oxygen to survive. So every gas is a gas, including oxygen. But oxygen is a gas that is needed by us to survive. So oxygen has a special place amongst all the gases. So there's carbon, there's nitrogen, there is fluorine, there is argon, there is neon. Oxygen, especially important for all of us. So let's say we are in a room which is devoid of all gases, and then they let in the gases except oxygen. So we will call out for that which we need. We will kind of indicate that we need oxygen here in sufficient quantity in the room. So oxygen is of paramount importance amongst all the gases. When we just take this, the human context, when we just consider the human needs. So amongst all the gases, oxygen is important. Oxygen has a special place. Now, similarly, trying to just use this example to explain the Lord's situation, the Lord is a person too. The Lord has features, the Lord has qualities. However, just as oxygen is so very important for all of us to survive amongst all the gases, similarly, amongst all the living entities, the Supreme Lord is the primeval Lord. Amongst all personalities, the Supreme Lord as a personality is the primeval, the cause of all causes, and is essential for every living entity's existence. So that is how the Lord has a special place. Otherwise, we are okay with accepting that the Lord is a person. just as all of us are people. Lord is also, we are persons, and we form. Just because the Lord has a form, just because oxygen is a gas, does not make it as common as the other gases. So just because the Lord has a form does not make his form as ordinary as all other forms. It is the most essential form. It is the form that gives rise to all other forms. It is the precursor of all other forms, because the Lord's transcendental form reveals, it is from his transcendental form that his Brahma Jyoti expands, and within the Brahma Jyoti is all of existence, the spiritual and the material too. So the Lord's form, his Rupa, is Vishesh. It's very, very, it holds a very, very important and strategic position in all of existence. So this form is revealed, and the Lord does that. Now, when the Lord reveals his form, the priests, all of them feel a little humbled, because, and the reason they feel humbled is because they realize that this is a supreme Lord who has appeared in front of us. And he has appeared in a way that we can perceive him, we can see him. And being knowledgeable, they realize that, are they even qualified to be able to see this form? They realize that they are not. But then they have executed a process wherein they were praying to the Lord and they were trying to invoke his presence too. And this is the subtlety of a spiritual process. In a spiritual process, we put in all of our endeavor and efforts trying to invoke the blessings of the Lord in the form of the Lord's presence. For example, in Kali Yuga, the recommended sacrifice is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So we follow a process, we follow a particular procedure, a recommended procedure that would help us invoke the presence of the Lord in the form of his holy names. Yes? So the process is there. Just because a process is there doesn't mean that the holy names would be forced to reveal themselves, to reveal himself, not themselves, but reveal himself. The holy name would not be forced by us, just as the Supreme Lord cannot be forced just because we have done the process. This is not a mechanical process. This process, any spiritual process where one is trying to reawaken one's spiritual consciousness, any spiritual process. And not just reawaken, but reestablish ourselves in total spiritual existence. Any process that is practiced, may it be karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyan yoga, most of them almost culminate in bhakti yoga or bhakti yoga itself. Any process cannot force the Lord in any of his forms, in the form of his blessing, in the form of his holy, as his name, as himself, in his transcendental form that we can see with these eyes. Cannot force the Lord. We cannot say that, hey, we have done the process and therefore the result has to be there. Then why do we follow the process? Because we do not have any other option. Why don't we have any other option? If we do not follow the process of spiritual emancipation or the process of purification for spiritual upliftment, then the only other alternative vikalpa for us is a material life which goes around in cycles, which puts us into the cycle of repeated birth and death. That is the only other option that we have, the only other alternative that we have. So first of all, if we want to be peaceful, happy, then we have to accept the spiritual process. Secondly, being humble and accepting that whatever come the result, that is for one's benefit, is an essential aspect of spiritual practices. And the reason is we are infinitesimally small. The Supreme Lord is infinitely huge. Sometimes this analogy or this kind of logic is used in the scriptures that a dwarf may try to, it is called as Batu Chandra Nyaya. A dwarf may try to jump up and aspire to catch the moon, touch the moon. First of all, it's a dwarf. The moon is kind of so far, far away, a dwarf on the earth. A dwarf may try to do that. And all the dwarf can do is, because of short stature, short size, height, can jump a few feet of the earth. However, if the moon decides to reach out to the dwarf through its rays, then the dwarf is bathed in the light of the moon, in the moonlight. So that is the ability of the moon to reach out. At the same time, dwarf has also to be eager and try to reach out to the moon as much as the dwarf can. Similarly, as infinitesimally small beings, we have to perform that which is essential for us to be focused in life. And the focus has to be that this lifetime should be our last life in this cycle of repeated birth and death. And that is only possible if we develop pure love for Krishna, pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is called as Krishna Prem. And Krishna Prem comes through only after we have been through all that is essential for us to be purified. So humility is essential because we are trying to approach the infinite. And thirdly is our faith in the process, because there have been many others who have achieved the blessings of the Supreme Personality of God. So they are called as the great personalities of the past, or the Mahajanas, and we try to follow in their footsteps. Their examples give us assurance, and they help us be faithful, and they help us go forward in spiritual life. And all of these are humility, first of all, one's attempt in humility, prayers, and the need of having sufficient examples that inspire one, especially of great devotees, great personalities, and ultimately, Lord's blessings. This is the subject matter of this chapter, the third chapter of the fifth canto. So Nabhi and Meru Devi, they worship Lord Vishnu. They perform the sacrifice. Now their father, King Agnidhra, had worshipped Lord Brahma for a different purpose. King Nabhi worships the Supreme Lord. His purpose is to have a son. Now, she wants to have a son who is the Supreme Lord himself, or is an expansion of the Supreme Lord? In simple English words, we can say as good as the Supreme Lord himself. See, he wants to have a son who's like the Supreme Lord. That is his desire. Now, being a great king, a ruler of such a huge planet, and having access to so many historical references, he knows that there is this possibility, and he even feels confident enough, along with his wife Meru Devi, he feels confident enough to have such an aspiration, which is very interesting. Many of us, many times we never realize that we do not have this kind of aspiration for the Supreme Lord in our lives. There's still some kind of an abstract understanding of the Supreme Lord in our lives. When I say abstract, it is in terms of our belief system only being so much. So, anyways, King Nabhi's his belief and Queen Meru Devi's belief is just immense. So the Lord appears, and the priests, when they see the Lord, they feel completely disqualified having the Lord's presence there. They feel that they may have performed the sacrifices, but their sacrifice was to invite the Supreme Lord here so that he may bless the king to have a son. I mean, that is such a limited desire. It is as if one approaches a very, very wealthy person and asks for one glass of water. So the priests, they feel that maybe it was inappropriate to invoke the presence of the Lord. These are all qualities of humility. Since the king since they're performing the sacrifice on behalf of the king, so implicitly this also indicates that the king and the queen also have similar feelings of that they're extremely glad that the Lord has appeared. At the same time, we feel that we caused some kind of inconvenience to the Lord, that the Lord had to appear in our sacrifice, in our sacrificial arena. So they start glorifying the Lord, and they say that, my dear Lord, you are complete in yourself. You have no needs. You have no desires. You have no lackings. I mean, you are the source of everything. So what is it that can be offered to you in the form of a fire sacrifice, in the form of the ingredients that are offered in the form of sacrifice, that are offered to you in the fire sacrifice? These are the priests. They are expressing their heart, their feelings, that here is the Supreme Lord, complete in himself. And we did an elaborate sacrifice, asking him to come here and accept the offerings of the sacrifice and then bless them. Does the Lord really need all of that? Does he need all the ingredients that were being offered in the sacrifice? He does not. The Lord does not need it. They know it for sure. And therefore the priests state that, my dear Lord, what is important for us as your devotees, as your servants, is that you be pleased by our activities. And to please you, one does not always need elaborate resources or elaborate arrangements. Because you're complete in yourself, you're pleased by simple attempts, you're pleased by simple means. It is we who, for our own purposes, we perform such elaborate sacrifices so that we who have the capacity to perform a sacrifice like that on such on an elaborate scale, we use all of that to serve you. And in this way, we sacrifice our desires to enjoy those ingredients. Hence, elaborate sacrifices can be performed if one has the means to perform that. Otherwise, from the perspective of humans, a simple act of just offering a fruit to the Lord or a huge fire sacrifice in which millions of tons of ghee, clarified butter, and so much of grains and herbs, tons, millions of tons of that have been offered in the fire sacrifices. From our perspective, there may be some difference. One is like a huge sacrifice where huge quantities of resources are used, and the other is a simple act where just a small quantity of a resource has been used. From the Lord's perspective, because the Lord is so complete in himself, is so huge, the Lord is Vibhu. Both are minuscule. If you're just speaking about size in terms of how big it is or how small it is, for the Lord, from the Lord's perspective, from Lord's vision, both are quite simple. Both of them. Because the Lord he is a Yajnapati. Millions of sacrifices are offered, fire sacrifices are done to please him. And this is just one fire sacrifice. It is one amongst millions. It's like one star amongst the millions in the Milky Way, the galaxy. So, from the Lord's perspective, it is still very simple effort. I wouldn't say insignificant. So we have to understand whether we are offering a glass of water or whether we are doing this elaborate fire sacrifice. Amongst us, we may feel that one is big and the other is a very simple activity. One is a very elaborate activity. The other is a very simple activity from our perspective. However, when we try to understand how these sacrifices would be in the Lord's perception, then we must feel that it is insignificant. And therefore, the Lord being pleased by our activities, whether it is by offering a simple fruit or doing an elaborate fire sacrifice, the Lord being pleased is a very, very meaningful act on the Lord's part. Very, very meaningful. So now the priests, because they are feeling so unqualified, they express that how the Lord is pleased by simple means. When we say simple means, what the priests are trying to state is that sometimes when we make very elaborate arrangements, then we may get caught up in what is called as anarthas, that which is not very favorable, like status, pride, envy, harshness, deceit, and so many other. You can just name all of that. The more elaborate it is, there are so many avenues that we can be attacked by these unfavorable qualities. Similarly, if you are offering a simple ingredient like a fruit or a flower, one could still feel the same. It's quite possible. As it is said, even a beggar can become proud of one's borrowed penny. That's possible. From our perspective, from the perspective of embodied souls, still it is necessary to use our discriminative intelligence. It is necessary that we do that. So we have to be very careful. Hence, Agnidra Maharaj, Nabhi Maharaj and Meru Devi and the priests too, they were all purified of any other vested interests through their previous penances, austerities, and practices. So the Lord is pleased by simple means. So then why did the priests perform the sacrifices? In the words of the priests, they did it because they wanted to achieve their material benedictions. They needed some material benediction. And it is for their own benefit, for our own benefit, that we perform our sacrifices, that we do our yagyas. You see, chanting of the holy names of Krishna is for our own benefit. When we eat Krishna Prasad, it is for our own benefit. It is not going to benefit anyone else or even the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we distribute books or we distribute Krishna Prasad, that is also for our own benefit. In doing that, others get benefited. That is just a collateral. If you think that we are benefiting them by doing distribution, maybe we could be in some kind of illusion. Primarily, we are benefiting ourselves by going out and distributing this knowledge, by going out and distributing books, and by going out and distributing prasad. Primarily, we are benefiting ourselves, and through such acts, others also get benefit. So basically, we are doing it for receiving benedictions from the Lord, and many times these benedictions are material benedictions, just as the priests would declare that, or implicitly it has been stated that the priests feel that the Lord has appeared here and the Lord can offer us any kind of benedictions, but ultimately, because we perform this sacrifice on behalf of the king to ask for a son, and the son, we asked for a son who is like the Supreme Lord. Still, it is a benediction that would be needed in this material world. Hence, it's a material benediction. And therefore, from a very, very elevated perspective, when one is very elevated in one's spiritual consciousness, when asking for a son who's like the Supreme Lord would be considered to be material. Because one is asking for a son in this world. So this is a very elevated state of realization. We cannot try to imitate that, nor can we consider these great priests or King Nabhi to be materially motivated. No, that is not what is being stated here. What is being stated is a very, very elevated state of consciousness, very highly pure state of consciousness. That here is a Lord, we can ask for liberation from this material world, but most probably all we are going to ask for is, can we have a son for a king? So very elevated state of consciousness. And this is possible when we have mixed devotional aspirations in our life, or mixed devotional a mixed devotional attitude in our lives. What is mixed devotional attitude or a mixed devotional aspiration? A mixed devotional quality is where we want to be a devotee of the Lord. At the same time, we have certain needs to be fulfilled in this material world. We have certain ambitions, more than needs. we should say we have certain ambitions, we have certain selfish desires in this material world. And that is called as mixed devotional practices. We should not get unnecessarily disturbed by that. What is needed is we go on practicing the process of devotional service, and slowly we get purified of any other contaminations or distractions that may be there in our practices. We'll get purified of it. That is assured. So, yes, so that is there. So the priests, they finally seek forgiveness from the Lord, and they express to the Lord that they may be excused for trying to, for invoking his presence here, for calling him here for material things. So this is how the priests, they offer their prayers. So the prayers, basically to encapsulate what the prayer is, first of all, it expresses their humility, that the Lord has appeared and they feel so unqualified. Through their prayers, they realize that the Lord is pleased by simple means. What is the simplest? There's only one simple activity that pleases the Lord. If we can just kind of state it directly, there's only one simple activity, and that is devotion. And devotion is quite simple. It is a matter of the heart. So a pure heart simply exudes devotion to the Lord and the desire to serve the Lord uninterruptedly, to serve the Lord. So that is the simplest thing that is needed. That is called as devotion. So they express that. Then they express that the Lord is not in need of the various ingredients that are offered in the sacrifices. However, all of these ingredients are offered in the sacrifices because we have certain material benedictions to ask. Then they also express, we did not discuss it in detail, but there is also the idea of how rare it is to be able to see the form of the Lord. And here the priests had that opportunity to, so they feel very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to see the form of the Lord with their very eyes, with these very material senses. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada points out something interesting. He says, similarly, the Lord also appears in the deity form. But people consider the deity to be just ordinary stone or ordinary marble. It is very rare. It is a very rare event that the Lord, he appears to accept our services in the form of a deity. We should feel very fortunate if we get the facility to serve the deity of the Lord. So that is very rare. And then they express that the organizer of the sacrifice, the Yajaman, the king himself, and they, the priests, they have all been foolish because they could not, they having the presence of the Lord in front of them, they are not in a position where they can ask for liberation because they have to ask the Lord to bless the king to have a son who is like the Supreme Lord. So they express the situation of being foolish here. And they state that the reasons people sometimes find themselves in this zone of foolishness is because they overlook, or they lose focus of, or they forget to stay in touch with the examples or references that are given of previous great devotees or the Mahajanas, the advanced souls. We should try and take association of people who are more advanced than us. Well, hopefully we just take association of devotees, because many of us really are not in a position where we can understand who is more advanced or less advanced. It's just a figment of our imagination, or it is propaganda, etc. We may not be in a position, so we just follow someone else who follows somebody else, and we accept advanced souls as being advanced. So typically, what would be very helpful is that we just take the association of devotees who are engaged in sincere devotional practices, and many of them could be advanced souls. Why I am trying to explain this is that so that we stop judging people, or we stop ourselves from making the mistake of judging people. Oh, this person is advanced, this is more advanced. Oh, this person has so many years logged in devotional practices, so advanced. These so many ways of being judgmental. We just offer respect to one and all. We take whatever guidance we need, or whatever clarifications we need from people that are able to have a conversation with us, that are able to, decipher things for us. They become our guides, or help us decipher things for ourselves. We should have conversations and dialogues with people like that. That is also called as association of satsanga. We should try and be careful that we do not fall into this zone of labeling people. We just take association. So any practitioner or practitioners may find themselves in the zone of foolishness when most probably they have lost touch of, they are no longer in touch of, they have overlooked or they have forgotten the examples or the references, the historical references of great personalities who have practiced devotional services in its pristine purity, devotional practices in its pristine glory, unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional services. So we need to constantly remember such great souls through their historical references, to constantly reading about them or hearing about them. And if in our own present lives we have association of such great personalities, then taking that benefit too. That helps us stay focused and may be very helpful in steering us away from being foolish enough that when the Lord appears, we ask for a material benediction. And finally, in their prayers, they seek to be excused by the Lord for calling him here for offering a material benediction. Finally, the Lord speaks. So this entire description is being spoken by Shukdev Maharaj to Parikshit. So towards the end of this chapter, it is in verse 16 that I think Parikshit Maharaj is being addressed by Shukdev Goswami specifically here, as one who is very dear to Vishnu Datta, like that. And he says, what is Nirgadena, this Sanskrit word is used to express that the prayers that were offered to by the priests were all in prose. Generally, prayers are offered in a poetic form. This was all in prose. It was all in sentences. So that has been specifically been mentioned by Shukdev Goswami. And then the Lord, he says that he is very pleased, and he expresses that, yes, he would be happy. The Lord would be happy to appear as the son of Nabhi Maharaj. The Lord states that since he is asked for a benediction to have a son who's like me, there can be no one like me. And this again expresses how the Lord is. There are certain special features that the Lord has which no other living being can have. And therefore the Lord is, he is the only one. There's no one like him. So the Lord, he says that he'll appear as the Son. So he'll appear as himself, which basically means that he would appear as an expansion. And this expansion that the Lord appeared as, wherein he is the son of King Nabhi, is Lord Rishabhadev. And then we get to hear of this particular incarnation of the Lord, who specifically appeared to teach through his example the practices of a civilized human life, which culminates in spiritual realization. He specifically appeared to establish that, which in the scriptures is referred to as the principles of Varnashram Dharma. And he also wanted to satisfy, although the priests and King Nabhi may be feeling foolish, that the Lord was pleased, because the Lord is pleased by devotion and devotional a devotional attitude, devotional services. So he is pleased that King Nabhi had such a desire, and to fulfill King Nabhi's desire, he appeared as an expansion as King Rishabhadev. So in this expansion, the Lord is called as, we call him as Lord Rishabhadev, or we call him as King Rishabhadev. And the Lord specifically says that I always fulfill the words of great saintly personalities, especially qualified Brahmanas. And he says that therefore, since you have performed a sacrifice, assuring the king that his desire would be fulfilled, in order to fulfill, in order to make your words come true, that is important for me, to make your words come true. And since in your prayers, you also asked me to kindly fulfill the king's desire and accept this desire that all of us have to become the son of King Nabhi. So to fulfill those words, because whatever has been spoken by great qualified Brahmanas like you, to fulfill these words that have been uttered by you, I will appear as a son of King Nabhi. So here the Lord gives these reasons for his appearance. First, to establish principles of religion. Second, in this case, it is principles of Varnashram Dharma. Second, to fulfill the desire of King Nabhi. And third, to prove the words of qualified Brahmanas to be true. Whatever they utter is the truth. In conclusion, for many of us, since we specifically we are going to the Srimad Bhagavatam, which was translated and commented on by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada gave us his word that if we simply chant Hare Krishna sincerely, then Krishna will bring us back home, back to God. So a takeaway home message for us could be, in conclusion, that if we put our faith in Srila Prabhupada's words, you know, we go on reading the scriptures, that is of paramount importance. Also faith, that if we simply chant Hare Krishna sincerely, if we chant the holy name sincerely, we will go back home, back to Godhead. Those words of the Supreme Lord would be, of Srila Prabhupada would be true, because Krishna would prove his words to be true. Because that is what the Lord does. He is pleased by the efforts of his devotees, and in reciprocation, he wants to please them. This is spiritual reciprocation. So anyways, I think I have gone beyond my time, 15 minutes beyond my time. It's already 6:45 there. So I'll stop here. And if there are any comments or questions, if we have time for that, please let me know. Shamsundar, if you're still there.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhuji, we can take some questions now.
Okay, questions.
Yes, okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you for the class. So I see you're saying this. So I see in your like Mayavadi philosophy, where they completely believe in Lord have no form, and then on Islamic side also I see they also completely believe Lord has no form, and they are like they really get mad if someone say even Lord have a form. And on a high level, there is literally no difference I see from Mayavadis and Islam. So what do you say for
that? Thank you for asking that question. Actually, all these various different streams of thoughts about what is spiritual science, these are various thought processes. All these various thought processes, and there are a lot of differences amongst them. So trying to say that on certain points they seem similar would not really justify them being different thought processes. So there are a lot of differences between, especially the two sects that you mentioned. Well, coming to the point that maybe both of these thought processes, both of these two thought processes that are there, the idea of trying to give a form to the Lord is unacceptable. Well, the whole point is that we don't give a form to the Lord. The Lord reveals a form. And I think, other than the Mayavadis, I guess, I really have to meet someone who clearly can state from the scripture that the Lord does not have a transcendental form. Personally, I haven't met someone who can authentically say that. The few that I've met, we have had good discussions and we've come to different conclusions, which I'll state in a few moments. So anyone who tries to give a form to the Lord, that person doesn't realize that that is incorrect. However, if we accept the form of the Lord as been described in the revealed scriptures, to state that is wrong is also incorrect. Now, the Lord's transcendental form has been described in the revealed scriptures so many times. And in most of the scriptures, in most of these processes, it's thought processes that are practiced in the world, or these different practices that people have all over the world. In most of these practices, wherever there is the idea of serving the Lord, there is the idea that the Lord's form is transcendental And if they stop themselves from describing the form, that is because they feel they're unqualified to describe the form. And feeling unqualified to describe the form of the Lord is also all right if their revealed scriptures does not reveal the form of the Lord. However, most of the revealed scriptures, or most of the revelations that have been there, basically the Vedas technically are the only revealed scriptures. The Vedas are not books, but the Vedas are, it is knowledge. So they are not just books. Vedas are not just books. They're not. Today the Vedas are present in the digital form, so no longer the book form is applicable. So it's just a body of knowledge. The Vedas, that is the word, a body of knowledge. So typically that is only the revealed scripture. Now parts of that may be revealed in one form or the other, different people, and that is acceptable to somebody who understands the Vedas. So when they say that the Lord does not have a form, even that is acceptable. When it is stated that the Lord does not have a form, that is acceptable. How? Well, when they say a form in terms of features, then yeah, we realize the Lord's kanti, the Lord's effulgence, typically does not have features as you and I understand features. It may not have eyes, it may not have limbs, etc., and etc., and etc. So yes, in that way, the Lord is having a transcendental form and formless too. And why not? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the avyakta form, I am present. He says, in my unmanifested form, O Arjuna, behold my opulence. So unmanifested form of the Lord is also there. Basically, it means that the unmanifested form of the Lord is the effulgence of the Lord that exists simultaneously with the Lord's transcendental form, and is simply the effulgence of the Lord's transcendental form. So let us have a talk with these impersonalists. Now the Mayavadis specifically, they want to kill the form of the Lord, not realizing that. They want to destroy the form of the Lord, not realizing that if you can destroy the Lord's form, then you are basically the Lord. So if that is their implication, that they want to become the Lord, then they are in deep, dark illusion. So a humble suggestion would be that if you are happy with the formless aspect of the absolute truth, the effulgence of the Lord, if you are happy with that, well, that is your take, that is what you want. At the same time, those who want to serve the personal form of the Lord, they also have an existence. And this is the conclusion that generally we reach when we have discussions with impersonalists. Personally, in my case, this is where we kind of come to a conclusion that yes, we can coexist. Why not? If the spiritual effulgence of the Lord was just spiritual effulgence with no one having any interest in it, that means that there is an aspect of the Lord that no one is interested in. So again, that is incomplete knowledge. That is not correct knowledge. So there will be people who will be interested in the impersonal aspect of the Lord, the effulgence of the Lord. There will be people who will be kind of infatuated by that. That is perfectly normal. So the Lord has a form. When we say form, that means features in terms of the Lord having senses. That is what we say, transcendental senses. That is the understanding. And then the Lord also has an existence where there may not be the need of senses. That is called as the Lord's effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti. As devotees, because we are interested in service, it is difficult or practically impossible to serve an effulgence. Hence, we serve the Supreme Lord in his various expansions, the spiritual world in his transcendental form. The nature of the living entity is to serve. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna. Anyone else has any other question? We can take one last question. So, Prabhuji, I have one more question.
Yes.
So, present situation where coronavirus came from China, and so any small mistake we see in our daily lives, we get like we do in our company or outside, punished by the laws of the company or by outside, and then China is getting away with all the virus spread they did for the world and the world suffering. And from spiritual perspective, do we need to hate China or do we need to see them as a
Hate. I mean, interesting question. Birth, death, old age, and disease. Isn't that supposed to be the nature of this material world? And it is the cause of dukkha doshana darshanam. So it is a cause of all our troubles and problems and difficulties, and that is how we are unhappy. So the typical characteristic of this material world as described in the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic literatures is that Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So birth, death, old age, and disease, being the nature of this material world, makes one unhappy in this material world. Makes every living entity unhappy in this material world. And then it is again very temporary, and it is constantly changing. So that makes it all the more difficult to exist here. So disease is going to be existent in this material world. So does it really matter from where it comes and where it goes? I mean, to the extent that we try to stay healthy, it is important to find out the source and try and take care of it. So those are details. If one really wants to be free of disease, then one has to practice Krishna consciousness sincerely, and at the end of life, remember Krishna and go back to the spiritual world. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
You see any kind of attachment to any object in this material world simply creates a desire to increase our longevity in this material world. So if we target a particular community or a race through hate, then basically we have allowed hate to stay in our existence, to stay in our hearts. Now, once it is there, it would need another expression after some other time. And in this way increase our longevity, because for hate to have an expression, we need an object. When the object is there, there's going to be interaction. When there is interaction, then we get bound up by the laws of karma. So what we could do is we should try and be careful. Now, being careful does not create any kind of unsavory or unrequired or unhealthy impressions in the heart. It never does that. Being attentive, being careful is a very healthy attitude. So one must try and be very attentive, and one must be careful by taking all precautions to stay healthy and not get influenced by this pandemic or the disease caused by this pandemic. Is that okay? Anything else?
Hare Krishna. So, we can conclude here.
Shamsundar, can we? I think.
Thank Prabhuji for Haribol.
Yeah, your voice was cracking.
Is it clear now?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was saying that at this point, let us all thank His Grace Rohinipriya Prabhuji for joining on this call and enlightening all of us. Prabhuji, this is wonderful to hear from you after a long time. So really grateful to you for taking time out. So let us all thank Prabhuji by loudly chanting Hari Bol 3 times. Hari Bol.
I could hear a lot of familiar voices. Now I'm feeling homesick from Pittsburgh, or about Pittsburgh.
I have a lot of homes in Prabhu. You can come to any home.
I recognize that voice. It's a very heavy voice.
I hope that soon we will be able to get your association in person. But most importantly, we would be eager to hear from you again soon. So again, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Appreciate.
Thank you very much, Shamsundar. And finally, everyone, please stay safe, stay healthy, stay Krishna conscious. And Hare Krishna. Shamsundar, do you have any announcements to make? Can I end the session?
Yes, yeah, I wanted to just announce quickly to all the devotees that on Tuesday we will be celebrating Janmashtami in Pittsburgh. So please look out for the announcements and participate enthusiastically. This will be the first Janmashtami actually in one sense in Pittsburgh because we won't be going to Vrindavan. So we have some plans to celebrate together here while trying to see how we can address the social distancing and the COVID situation. So please watch out for the announcements. All right. So thank you so much. With that, we'll close here. Prabhuji, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai.